which is the advertisements on your page that people click on to generate revenue for you. So it ties into both of those. It uses your same login account as your Gmail, if you use Gmail. And there's just a bunch of other Google tools that you'll see that tie into Google Analytics that make it very easy to use in the top product, I'd say, to get started with for a smaller company. There's other ones, of course. Google's not perfect, but it's great, and it's free until you get to a certain scale. But even large companies, I mean, it takes a long time to get to that scale. And there's things in there, we'll talk about quotas, that why you want to create different accounts and different properties and all these kinds of things. But I'm going to talk about Google Analytics. The first thing, and Eric did a great job of introing it, is to know what your business does and why to use this and what you're trying to do and what to measure. And so the things in the back that he talked about are super important. So I always ask, what is web analytics? Well, first you got to know what's your website. Who are you? What do you do? Why? So your website, you're a cinematographer, you're not trying to make money on your website. You're not selling ads on your website. Your website's there for people to find your services so that you could show up to an event and get paid. Pretty simply, right? Whereas someone else who has a website and is trying to get a lot of traffic is doing it because they want to make money from the advertisements on their website. So know what you're trying to do. Maybe you're just a charity and you're raising money, or you've got another service that people pay for that's online, but it's not an ad-based service. So you're trying to attract people to sign up and get activated to create accounts, and then you make money from other things. So really don't forget why you created your website that you need Google Analytics for. It's very important. We're going to keep going back to that. I've done trillions, literally trillions of advertisements, ad impressions on the web in the last 15 years or whatever. And I talked to advertisers and chief marketing officers and media buyers. I talked to all these people, and I said, what are you guys trying to do with this campaign? And they'll say, oh, we're trying to get Facebook likes. You want Facebook likes? Well, why don't you just pay a bunch of people to like your site? Is that really what you want? No, what you want to do is activate people to buy your product. That's what advertising is about. So always remember that you're trying to sell something. If you're advertising or making a website, you're trying to sell something and make money. So the revenue number that was down here for everyone, the revenue number is your ultimate holy grail, as Eric put it. So you always got to remember, how do I get people to that from the top, and how do I measure it along the way? So if you're buying Facebook likes, if that's what the goal of the campaign is, really that's only part of the process. You're activating people to like Facebook, like your site on Facebook, but then you got to activate those Facebook likes to actually buy your product, or to become viral to encourage other people to sign up and then buy your product. So getting the likes isn't what you want to measure in the end. It's revenue, and then it's the ROI, the return on investment. Even if you're a brand campaign, say Levi's or Coke, right? You aren't going to have someone buying Coke or jeans necessarily from an online 300, 250 ad unit, or even from the Levi website. You just want them to see Levi's and Coke and think about it, so when they're making that product decision, they're there and buying it. So how do you measure that? Well, Google Analytics isn't going to tell you how many people bought Coke after seeing your ad. So you got to find ways to connect the dots. Google Analytics can help be a part of that process. So always be thinking, how do I get people to purchase, make that purchase? And everything else is just metrics along the way. So what do we want to measure? All those metrics along the way. As he said, all of the above. How do you measure them? Well, I like Google Analytics to do the things online in terms of traffic, visitors, devices. It measures all these kinds of things. So how much of my traffic is mobile? Are people who are mobile going to download a toolbar? No, people don't download toolbars on mobile. Well, are they going to install an app online from a desktop? Maybe not. Maybe they're not going to install the app there because you only install the app on your phone. So there's different, you need to know what the device is, you need to know how many people are doing it, where they're coming from, all these kinds of metrics along the way. So that's kind of the basics. I want to get those out of the way. So that's the first thing on the agenda that you guys got on the invitation that said, what is web analytics? The next is getting started with Google Analytics. And so here I'm going to log into my account. And because it's my Gmail, even though, oh, that's my little fun trick. Even though it's a big orange button on the right that says create an account, and the little one says sign in, They both go to the same place. So Google, you would think, would have A/B tested this and put one button or something. But anyways, I always click on the button on the right. It's easier when I'm loading pages. It's all about speed. So I'm going to just obscure my profile for a second. Make it so you can't really read it. Wait a minute, you guys can still see it. It didn't get smaller for you.
Can you mute the...
There we go. That's fine. I got it really small. And I got passwords. I use
Now
passwords.
you're off.
Nice.
Okay.
You don't have to tell us your pet.
No, like we're filming this or
I know,
So let's see if that worked.
good times.
Okay, so I think I logged into my account successfully. And now the only Google Analytics I have here, Eric helped set me up with an access to his account for scvstartup.com. And it doesn't matter, except for the size of the account. It's not going to matter. It's the same elements. Everybody's got properties, accounts, events, these kinds of things. So when you first log in, it's here, and they're always updating their product, and that I'm going to get to later. But they're always updating this and changing things, and you need to pay attention to that, because when they change their product, they might say Lyft is this, and then they come up with a new product, a new feature, and they change Lyft is now this. And so when it goes from 130% to 105%, you just think, oh, something went wrong. They might just have changed the way they counted. Sometimes they look at mobile versus desktop, and then suddenly tablets come along. So my mobile and my tablet, my mobile and my desktop, if I'm watching that, might not add to 100% of my traffic. So you really got to look for constantly there's changes going on. So when I go into my account, or Eric's account, you'll see three things on a basic account. This is my account. Yeah, that's my account, that's my property, and that's my profile. Everything happens at the profile level. Just kind of think about this. When you're looking at numbers, everything happens at the profile level. It's hard. You can look a little higher, but it's really, if I click on this, it's just a folder, right? And you'll see this has the number in it. We'll get to this number later. But really, everything happens at the profile level when I'm trying to look at data. Okay? So here's the data, here's the traffic, here's the desktop. I'm going to make it, let's see if I can shrink it a little so that it can fit on the screen. Okay? And it comes with your basic date range up here. And you'll notice every Google product has a different way of changing the date. Wonderful. Because they bought this product, there's different teams working on different products. So sometimes if you're in AdWords or AdSense or DFP, all these different Google products, they always have different ways of changing the date. So that's a fun thing. But you're going to start with that, unless you have a saved report. You've got your dashboard, shortcuts, all these accordion style things. And it starts out with audience. And that's kind of up here, your acquisition, in a sense. Audience is the biggest, it's everything. Everything that Google has attention to in this profile is your audience. From the profile, I can start slicing and dicing it. I can make different profiles. I can give different people different access. At the profile level, the account level, the property level. But again, because the data is seen at the profile level, we're going to start here. And this is everything. I could go create another profile, mirroring this, and then give you access, only give you access to this profile. So I have two different profiles now. I can see both of them. One sees one sees the other. And then I go to this profile and I start filtering it. I start cutting it down and saying, only show me mobile devices on this profile. And then I say, only show me desktop on this profile. So while the audience is everything, it's everything in that profile. And that profile could have filters on it. But that's only after you set it up. So think of it as everything until we get more advanced there. Now some real basics are, again, the overview of audience. That's where we are. And this tells us, I'll try to move it right there, I'll zoom in a little bit. Visits versus visitors. This is a fun concept, and you got to learn this. Real important concept, but people get these two numbers confused. Visits and visitors. If someone comes into the office here, they're a visitor who made one visit. That guy goes out and he comes back in. He's the same visitor, but now he made two visits, right? So this number always has to be bigger than that number, because this one person can come in 200 times, but 200 people can't come in one time. It's not the average number of visits or per visitor. It's none of that. It's how many times did someone create a session and come to your website? And then how many times did Google recognize it as the same person? And Google can recognize it as the same person with one method right now, which is cookies. I'm talking fast, but there's a lot to cover. I'll leave a lot of room at the end. And I just always talk fast, so I use that as my excuse. So at the end, we'll have questions. But Google can track you through cookies. And so when you visit a website, and so let's say we go over to this wonderful website here. With this browser, never been to this website before. I visit it. Google, if JavaScript is on, and JavaScript's probably going to be on, don't worry, if JavaScript's off, none of this is worthwhile. Nothing will happen on the internet without JavaScript being on. So I'm on this page, and the browser, so I'm inside of Chrome, which is a Google product. The browser is sending information, making a request to the server. But which server? So it has all this HTML. If I look in here, there's a whole bunch of HTML. And so it's saying, go to this page, give me all of this HTML, and based on this HTML, I'm a browser. I'm going to react to the text, to the instructions that are here, and it's telling me to do all these things. And one of them is going to be GA. There's a lot of G's here. But GA, if I search for it, again, front-go loop, gallery, single navigation, you can keep going around, but eventually I'm going to get to right here. So this instruction from JavaScript is saying this number here is this name website, and it's going to say send a page view count to that website. So if I go back over here, this website number I bet is going to match. So if I take that number there, and then I go here, there it is. So the Google account I'm logged into has the same property ID here as the web page. So the web page said, go to Google, give them an increment of a count saying this visitor visited this page, and then it's saying, is this person new or not? So it looks at the cookies. Cookies are stored information on my particular browser, and each browser is different. So not my computer, but my browser. Each browser says, okay, I'm going to store information. I've been to this website. Google's going to store a piece of information saying, here's my number, here's my Google ID for this session. And so it's going to increment it. It's going to increment 1 here. If I come back again, close my browser, come back again, because there's another visit. And the way it determines a visit, you can configure it, but it's basically an amount of time since it's last seen you. So if I just go to another web page and then come back, it might not count it as 2 sessions. It might count it as 1 visit, depending on how long your session is and what exactly you do. If I opened up Firefox, a different browser, and went to the website, it would be a new visitor with a new visit, because it didn't store the cookie across different browsers. If I go home, use my desktop computer with Chrome, it would be a different visitor because it didn't store the cookie on that computer or that browser. So every browser, every computer, it's a different ID, becomes a different visitor. So now, how many page views? Well, I just saw 1 page view, so it incremented that. It doesn't matter if I'm in the same session, different session, whatever. It just counts how many times do I count page views. Then you got things like average visit duration. So that says, how long was this guy on your site? And that's a really hard thing to measure, because sometimes people leave the window open like this and start giving speeches at conferences, and then they come back and they click again. So does it say, oh, this guy was on the site until that next click? What if I didn't click again? Would it still recognize me as being there? How long was my visit? So there's all this documentation you can read about how it tries to measure what a visit is, how long it is. But generally, if you have enough traffic, this will be you'll get a good idea as to what this length is. New visits versus old visits, right? So if 55% of the people are new visits, that means that 46% of the people who visited this page, so 46% of 115, no, sorry, visits. 46% of visits are new. And so you can then kind of figure out, well, how many visits were generated by new people versus returning people. And we can dig into that later. Unique people who came into the office regardless of how many times they do it in that month or that period of time. Pages per visit, how many times I click around until I don't click around anymore. And then if I came back and visited again tomorrow, it still recognizes me as the same person, but it's a new visit, so how many times I click, and so it takes, the first time I clicked 4 times, next time I click 10 times, it's 14 divided by 2, 7. So the average visit would be 7 pages per visit. Bounce rate, another really tricky number here, very misleading, people get hung up on this. The way Google says it is if they leave from the same page they came in on. So if a person comes in, clicks 2 or 3 pages, goes back, and then leaves, and how does it know what page you left on? It's a good idea, good suggestion here. Don't get hung up on the bounce by itself. Don't just say, oh, 100% of the people are bouncing. Well, if you have one page, and it's a commerce page, or make an appointment with me, and they're filling out this form, and they're hitting submit, and the URL doesn't change, or something like that, and they just leave, doesn't matter, you have a high bounce rate. New York Times, if you doing search, and they got really good SEO, search engine optimization, and you find the New York Times through a search for, Boston Bomber, and you click on the story and you read it, and then you go back and go off and read your mail, it might be a really high bounce rate. Would the New York Times care? Well, not if you have a lot of visits, page views. I mean, really, they care over here about the revenue generated from all those people. In fact, some people like short depth because that means they clicked and went off your site to something else, which might be an ad or something like that. So you don't necessarily want people doing 100 page views all the time. So bounce rate is really a tricky number. The chart over here, new versus old, and you can drill into it, and that's what we're going to start doing now. Let me just get back on this. So reporting, right, so why you would want a different profile. Back up to that. Let me go back up to my home button. And this is my profile. Oh, that's right, I forgot here. Now I'm going to go to admin of the profile. So, can we see that all right? So here we got the account. So that's the account I'm managing. Pretty obvious. All of you are going to probably have one account for your one business. You can do settings, user management, and we're going to get into linking here. All of your filters. You can't filter this, but your filters apply to this. But this just says, here's all the filters regardless of what this setting is. Just all your filters. Change history, so you can know what happened if someone else is logging into the account or when you did something. We'll tell you the change account. Here's the property. The property here, I'm just going to click quickly here, is going to have that number we were talking about. Right there. That's that same number. So I know, oh, if I'm looking at the source of something, that's the number that ties to the web page. Because I might have multiple properties under this account. So SCV Startup might have another web page called, let's just say Small Dog Creative. And so this one guy has one company that has 2 different websites. And so he wants to manage them completely differently, but he doesn't want to have to log out of Google and log back in. He doesn't want to have to deal with lots of user management issues and AdWords and those kinds of things. So he just creates 2 properties. Each would have a different ID that we looked at. You could set up, again, user management at this level. You can notice that it goes, you could set up users overall, smaller, smallest. And then I could just say, you can log into this profile, you can log into this website, and then Eric and I can log into everything. So you can set up at that granular level. And again, why would I have 2 people log into the same, 2 different profiles of the same website? Because I'll apply filters. So this filter says only mobile traffic. That's all I want you to worry about. And I want you to work only on web desktop traffic. So I set up a filter, making it as such. I assign one user to one filter, the other user to the other filter. Now you can only see your stuff and worry about it. What it's for is probably a bad example. Now I'm going to get back here. I'm kind of jumping around a little. So this is the tracking code. So this code here is what you put on your website, and if you notice, that's what we saw on Eric's website. So it tells you copy and paste this onto your website and you're done. And there's things you can do if you're a coder. There's lots of different ways you can do this. Try to make it faster, make it async. There's older code, newer code, different things like that. Where do you put it on the page? It really just depends on, are you trying to be really track as many people as possible, make sure it's at the top of the page, or do you want the page to load faster and you put something else at the top? And there's a bunch of different ideas there. You really don't have to worry about it. Google's pretty good. You just put this on the page somewhere and it will work. Session settings. So again, how long do you want to measure till you count a different visit from the same person as a new session or the same session? Organic search sources. So you can get into this, and it's really not part of our basic conversation. Referral exclusion. If SCV Startup, someone clicks on it and goes to SCV Startup, it's not a referral. Referral is when someone refers you to this website. So SCV Startup can't refer itself. That doesn't make sense. So if one website says, hey, there's this really good website called SCV Startup, go there, click here to go there, Eric will know by looking at his referral traffic where that people came from. And if he says, oh, I don't really care about referrals from this place, don't count it as a referral if it comes from that. It's really my other website, just a mobile version or something. You can put it in here and then it won't count as a referral traffic. Search term exclusion. So again, if you want to like exclude certain things, mostly this can be blank. You don't have to worry about it. Remarketing. If you're going to start buying, and this is the more advanced stuff, you can create remarketing lists, start tagging people, putting them in groups, buying traffic off of your website, so that you could say, and this is a really important topic, just not for the basic level, that if you're going to be buying traffic, you want to remarket to these people and say, oh, I saw this person over here, so send them an ad when they're over there, stuff like that. And it's good, just not basic. Custom definitions, if you want to make your own definitions, like the person clicked on a certain link, I want to name it a certain way and put it to the session, or how many of the items of that product did they buy. So this becomes really neat. If you set this up properly, you could say, you could ignore the category and almost look at the action across levels. So category could be pants, shirts, dresses, skirts. And then this could be, I put it in my shopping cart, bought it, just looked at it. So now I'm going to look at my website and go, I don't care if it was pants, skirts, or shorts. I care how many people bought things. Or I care how many people looked at things, put them in the shopping cart. So I just do a report on this and then ignore that. So before you set up your event, think of not just this one event, but how all of your events are going to be set up, so that I can say, why would this report be valuable to me? Because I really care about how many people are doing the action of putting things into shopping carts, as opposed to dresses. And because really you don't care what you're selling, maybe you're just caring how well you're selling it. So really think about that, and then that comes into pages with events on them. So what pages have what events, and then the events flow. And this gets really fun here, that you can then kind of go to that flow of, well, if they're voting before they're registering, are they putting it in their shopping cart before they're buying it? Probably. But are they recommending it before they buy it, or put it in their shopping cart? Are they putting it in their shopping cart and then recommending it? So if you know the flow of how you get them to, or you'll see what they're doing, then you can kind of tailor your website differently to say, no, I don't want that flow, or oh, they're doing that flow, let me take advantage of it. So flow becomes important. It's time. Think of it as time. What's the course of events? So if I just look at the number of page views, I look at how many items there are, I'm just getting an overall picture. But tell me what the average user is doing on my site. Oh, they're going to do this, and then they're going to do that, and then they're going to do this. That's what they call flows and funnels.